Well, welcome back to Comic Book Historians. I'm Alex Raymond, author of Understanding Superhero Comic Books, and today we're talking about Al Williamson, Master Comics illustrator, EC Comics, Secret Agent Corrigan, the Star Wars comics. The guy was a legend, and he did a lot more than what I'm about to say here in this video. Williamson grew up surrounded by vibrant scenery, but it was the world of comics that captured his imagination. His artistic journey began at a young age, and by the time he moved to New York City at 12, he had already fallen under the spell of visual storytelling.
When I discovered how good Alex Raymond was when I saw those drawings, it was like a world opening up of beauty.
Now, it was the 1940 serial Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe that captured his imagination and lit the fire in his mind to create stories.
Suddenly the titles came on, and it was Universal Pictures presents, and then Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. And it had me. I said...
At just 17, Williamson had already made his mark with a strikingly realistic depiction of Flash Gordon.
Started in 1948. I was 17.
A style that would become his signature throughout his career. Williamson's ascent in the comic art world was swift, thanks in part to his deep admiration for past masters. His work draw a subtle yet powerful influence from architectural visions, particularly those of Franklin Booth. This foundation, combined with his own vivid creativity, propelled Williamson to stand out during the 1950s. One of his earliest noteworthy projects was Jan of the Jungle, a collaboration with Ralph Mayo for Atlas Comics. It was a perfect reflection of the Tarzan mania of the era. Yet it was Williamson's love for space fantasy that truly set him apart. His preliminary cover for Weird Fantasy 13 in 1953, although unused, hinted at the artistic brilliance that would later flourish in his famed Flash Gordon work. The 1950s saw him mingling with other giants of the comic world, such as Maurice Severin in this photo, who would later rise to fame as a Marvel artist. While EC Comics shocked readers with its horror, Williamson gravitated more towards science fiction, a genre that aligned with his visual imagination.
And I just couldn't think horror. I wasn't into horror. I wanted to draw Flash Gordon. I wanted to, draw adventure.
His contribution to Tales of Suspense 1 in 1959 marked an early exploration of space narratives, complete with starships and space dragons. This story was a precursor to the iconic work he would later produce in the Flash Gordon universe. By the mid-1960s, Williamson was poised for a pivotal moment in his career. King Comics' Flash Gordon 1 allowed him to not only pay homage to the sleek heroism of Alex Raymond's original character, but also to modernize it with contemporary sci-fi elements. Williamson maintained the continuity from Raymond's time on the strip, as opposed to Mac Raboy, who worked on the Sunday strip from 1946 until his death in 1967. He meticulously penciled 3 extraordinary issues of Flash Gordon for King Comics with the collaboration of Archie Goodwin. Williamson's adaptation received immediate acclaim, with Flash Gordon 4 being featured in a Colombian newspaper when he was just 36. In the case of issue 4, from 1967, he captured a self-portrait before drafting and inking the final image that would be used in the issue. His rendition of Flash Gordon was rapidly gaining cultural significance, a status cemented by its use in promotional materials for Union Carbide plastics in 1970. In his next professional assignment in 1967, Williams' artistic evolution continued with Secret Agent Corrigan, originally also created by Alex Raymond. Here he brought a cinematic quality to the spy genre, collaborating again with writer Archie Goodwin. His early panels paid tribute to Raymond's style, but as the series progressed, he infused the character with his own flair, even modeling Corrigan after himself by the early 1970s. One of the highlights of this period was the 1969 storyline involving the kidnapping of Corrigan's wife, a tense, action-packed narrative that foreshadowed the kind of edge-of-your-seat storytelling that would later be popularized by films like Taken. Williamson's ability to blend suspense, action, and intrigue set a new standard for visual storytelling. Throughout the 1970s, Williamson's versatility as an artist continued to shine. He pushed the boundaries of the spy genre, blending James Bond-like thrills with science fiction elements in Secret Agent Corrigan. These strips ventured into diverse themes, and so did his affiliations, as he mingled with illustrative cartoonists around the world, like that seen here at the 1973 Lucca Comics and Games Festival. The same year, he incorporated a depiction of a Buddhist Tibetan lamasery into his work, reminiscent of the origins of iconic characters like Green Lama, Doctor Doom, and Doctor Strange. Another 1973 strip demonstrated Williamson's deft handling of the spy genre, as Corrigan enticed a local baroness and engaged in a deadly duel on a cliff edge, his survival hanging in the balance. In 1974, readers were introduced to Lady Vengeance, a character whose father's murder at the hands of mobsters spurred her transformation into a vigilante, targeting criminals. Her persona resonates with that of Elektra, who would debut in 1980. Though Lady Vengeance's aesthetic leaned towards a more gimp with a gun style rather than the typical ninja look. Both characters, though, underwent rigorous training and pursued ruthless monsters. As the series evolved, it explored more mature themes. For instance, a 1975 episode finds Agent Corrigan journeying through the cheap and gaudy section of town. In the same year, another storyline involved Corrigan exploring a South American pyramid in search of an ancient totem. Intriguingly, Williamson also incorporated extraterrestrial encounters into the narrative, as Corrigan meets an alien preserving a lost civilization in Antarctica. Not only that, but the cultural fascination with cults in the 1970s is embodied here in a 1975 strip where Corrigan confronts Madame Satan and her Church of Darkness, a storyline that seemingly drew inspiration from the film Rosemary's Baby. When the narrative took a turn toward science fiction, it was clear both Goodwin and Williamson reveled in exploring this genre, which he lampooned by comparing his work to science fiction storyteller Wally Wood, depicted in a panel from Flo Steinberg's Big Apple Comics showing him at his drawing board. By 1977, the series took a bold leap into alternate dimensions, a narrative shift that Williamson and Goodwin relished. The late 1970s marked the end of Secret Agent Corrigan, as the storyline focused further on science fiction, predicting Williamson's next career move with Archie Goodwin on adaptations of Star Wars.
I got a call around 2 years from this fellow that I had met at a convention, and he says, "Hey, the guy that did American Graffiti is doing a science fiction movie. He'd like you to do the adaptation in a comic book." It was George Lucas.
The emphasis on science fiction was echoed the same year in Steranko's Media Scene 40, a publication in which Williamson appeared to revel in furthering that genre. During this period, Williamson also crafted the artwork for the Flash Gordon movie adaptation comic book, which is incredible, by the way, and you must look at it if you haven't. Get yourself a copy. Soon after, he embarked on adaptations of iconic films like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back in 1980 and Blade Runner in 1982, both with his longtime collaborator writer Archie Goodwin and finisher Carlos Garzon. Goodwin did a great job adapting the script for comic book form, and it took this team 3 months to make it, among also working on other projects. The story itself is of course beautiful and points out that life is to be enjoyed and savored no matter how long or short it lasts, and that even an android can have daddy issues and cry. His contributions to the Star Wars universe were particularly memorable, and his 1980 strips from Marvel were later reprinted in classic Star Wars in 1992, a testament to his lasting influence on this storyline. His subsequent work on a Flash Gordon miniseries for Marvel in 1995, where he completed 2 issues, illustrated his continued artistic development as he returned to familiar themes and characters. The interior back cover featured the planet Mongo in the backdrop, a sword duel with Ming, and an homage to Alex Raymond's original in the final page. As Williamson's career transitioned into the early 2000s, he worked on 2 Sunday editions of the Flash Gordon newspaper strip, in 1999 and 2001. The first was a collaborative effort, while the second was entirely his own creation. At the age of approximately 70, Williamson's talent remained undiminished. Despite his semi-retirement, Williamson's engagement with his craft never truly ceased. He provided ink work for Marvel's Spider-Man and Daredevil titles, demonstrating a keen eye for detail that remained sharp and effective. In 2000, his contributions were rightfully recognized with an Eisner Award for his work. The news of Williamson's death in 2010 from complications of Alzheimer's left a void in the comic industry. His 7-decade career was defined by his passion for the art form, his endless creativity, and his ability to transport readers to worlds both fantastic and familiar. He demonstrated how to weave visually grand narratives that continue to inform and instruct many generations of comic book professionals.